How's this? Any volume? How about now? Yay, we can hear me. I can see my mic being picked up. So, thanks technical support. So that was my wife, everyone, letting me know that nobody could hear me and I was talking to myself as usual. So I'll start again. Welcome to this next episode of using Fathom API, I suppose. We're going to be working on an unofficial SDK this time instead of a CLI, because it means we're going to be focusing more on the API than how we can build a CLI. So without further ado, I'm going to hide my face and get on with it. So first thing I usually do is I start with a sparsely packaged skeleton Laravel. This is going to be a Laravel specific SDK. I would build a full-on SDK, but I've done that so many times. You don't really get to see the API anymore. So this is what I typically use. A package that I made here called PHP SDK. It's kind of like an SDK framework almost. You add your resources, you do a little bit of stuff, and that's it. And basically register your resources down here, and then this is your SDK. It's really, really simple to use. I'm not going to go into too much detail with that today. I'm just going to focus purely on getting started. So I'm just going to use this template because I wanted to have a nice quick start. Fathom SDK, a simple to use Fathom SDK for Laravel. Bang, done. While that's generating the repository, we will want to come over to GitHub and me. Now got it, so we can just clone that one quickly. Cloning that one, perfect. Ooh, we got new updates, lots of fun. So I'm keeping this Laravel ERP project open because we did quite a bit of testing in here, which I'm going to want to use. So we want a new project from existing files. Let's just make sure. Here we go. Here's a Fathom SDK. What else have we got in here? I've got loads of stuff that I've been working on. New window. Right, let that do its business. Right, time to get started. First thing you need to do is to configure the skeleton. So can I zoom in? Yes, I can. Let's go full screen with Warp because Warp is awesome. That's what we want, and then we just want to run configure skeleton. Author name, yep. That's my email. There's my username. That's my vendor name. Namespace is also that. Package name is Fathom SDK. Class name is just going to be Fathom. Package description, I literally just did. There we go. Let's grab that. And modify, yes, please. Oh, delete itself afterwards. Yeah, sure, why not? Excellent. So that is us literally set up. So let's go through some other stuff. Test bench, first thing. Fathom service provider Fathom, perfect. Naming has worked. Naming things can be hard. Just Steve King, Fathom, yeah, that's all looking good. I hate that it puts a role there. I like to have it in height order. So here we go. We'll just add this. That's nice and sweeping there. It looks good to me. Laravel 8 Plus. Laravel Contracts 8 Plus and PHP 8. Sparsely Laravel package tools. All of these things that I'm going to want. Looking good. don't need anything to do with databases though, so I can remove that. Looking good so far. Yeah, that's all looking good. So let's just install. Okay. So let's get PHP Storm understanding what we're doing. What I'll do is business. So what we're going to want to do is I did do some planning for this, a little bit of planning. So let me go over and find it. Live streams, unofficial Fathom SDK. I came up with a really nice way to write some of this, or a nice way to use it personally. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over to the README and I'll quickly explain it to you. So let's just drop that down here. Supporters, sparsy stuff. I don't want that in my package personally. Let's get rid of that as well. There's installation. Don't need to worry about migrations. You can publish a config file with Fathom SDK config, contents of that file, usage. So under usage, here we go. So this is what I'm thinking. Let me zoom in for you. So I want it to feel like Laravel. I want it to feel natural. I want you to be able to go Fathom account to get your account details, Fathom sites get, Fathom sites create. I want it to feel really kind of like it belongs. Because that's what I find with some SDKs. It just doesn't feel like it belongs. And you go out of your usual developer experience, what you're used to within that framework, and you just kind of, unless you're going to use like the HTTP facade, obviously, you know. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get started with this. So what we're going to want is to start with, delete that, please. Then we're going to want resources. Do we want anything there? Nope. Delete that. Config, Fathom SDK. So we're going to have two things within here. We're going to have the API token, which will be env Fathom token. And then we're going to have site. We want to be able to store a default site. Fathom. That's our current site, basically. So I'll probably have some descriptions on that later. But what we want is this will be our API token. And then this will be, if we're in the context of a current site, we should be able to emit things like this because we're going to be able to pull those in. Because it's, and maybe that and that. For anything where for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of those are what I'm using as site IDs at the moment, and then the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is all to do with events over there. So that's a general idea. So let's come over to here, and there we go. Where is that? So without further ado, let's start getting ready for this. So the first thing I know I need is I need to, hey Samuel. I use Laravel Transporter for this. So I could use a HTTP facade, but I've started using that a lot less. I create my requests in a very specific way. Let's delete that. Fathom. I will get to in a minute. Service provider. Let's do some cleanup. Let's just focus in on some code for a bit, shall we? I'm going to turn my volume down a little bit more. Where are we? That's better. So I'm not going to have any of that. Bang, done. The package name is Fathom SDK. That I can keep, I can live with. That's not in there. That's all I need within there. That's fine. So what testing frameworks is it using? So we won't want that to start with. Database default, not too bothered about that right now. Delete that because that's not important. Remove. Yep, we can remove that. So we're just doing some quick basic setup, basically. So what I'll do is, there you go, here's warp. Warp is there, then that, perfect. I'm now orientated. So I'm in the right directory. What I need to do at this stage is zoom in so you can see what we're doing. Okay, apparently it only zooms in the outer part, not the inner part. That's not so useful. Okay, we'll stick with this terminal for now because I know I can do this. So this is where I want to compose or require pest PHP with all dependencies. And there we go. Vendor bin pest init. Coverage init. There we go. Already started, I believe. So now I can go vendor in test, and I've got one test in there, which is that example test, which we can start to look at. Refactoring. So the first thing we're going to want to do, let's ignore that for now. So in our, over here, what we did before is we did a get fixture. So we're going to want that. We're going to want to look at this faking stuff. So first off, we're going to copy this over. We're going to want to have fixtures. So let's come to our pest and let's just kind of clean some of this up. Like that, got fixture. Anything else I wanted to do in here? Create module with name, no. Test case in unit. Maybe fixtures. Let's create that as well. So new directory, fixtures, and we want that to be in feature. So let's create that directory now. This test case. Do that one. In targets feature. Let's just see. Why does it always do that? Luckily, it takes about 6 weeks for my mail client to open up for some reason. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say force quit because I don't want you open. All right, so that's fine for now. What we're going to do, we're going to start looking at this API. We're set up. We're pretty much set up at this point. We're ready to rock and roll. So Fathom. What do we want from you? We kind of want some, if we go back to our README, we kind of want some just basic static methods here, don't we? It's just going to return something. So let's go to Fathom and let's just scaffold some of this out. That's Fathom. We're going to have a simple function here that's going to return something. Not an array for now. Right, I'll just do an array for now. Then we'll have like a public function events where we either have null or a string, and that's the ID, but we're going to default to null. And we're just going to return array again for now, just while we're sending this out. Then we're going to have the public function sites, events, aggregations. Again, we'll just return an array for now. Then last but not least, current track. This isn't on the API just yet, so I'm ignoring that for now. Eventually, I will implement that. But these obviously need to be static. And current. You can hear my breathing. Oh, I'm heavy breathing. Am I? Sorry. I just turned the mic off. Right. So what we need is we're going to have classes that's being returned from here, which is going to have their own methods on. Everything's kind of really separated at this stage. So we're going to have, I suppose, this is a Fathom, this is like the client, and then this is going through to the resource, isn't it? So we'll create resources. So I typically call these things. So we'll create a new one to start with. So we will call that one sites. And that is it for now. That's all we need for that. So what this is going to return is sites. Then to sites. Don't need to pass it any arguments. That's it. Next one, events. Which, like on the API, we're keeping it simple as possible. So, turn new events. But this one is where we will pass some information through. So, to start with, we will say the site for the events is going to be ID or config Fathom SDK site. So on events, we need to add this in here. Public function constructor on PHP 8. So what we will do is this will have a private string ID, or no, site, sorry. And what we'll do is just add the getter for that one. So public function site. Turn shut that one up. That will shut that one up. Too many arguments. Okay, that's disappeared. Good. Aggregations is another one. So we kind of need a similar thing here. So new PHP class, aggregations. These don't actually need much on them. For that. And again, I don't believe aggregations needed anything. So let's just close some of those down. Yeah, aggregations didn't need anything. Everything's done in the generate there. So I can just return a new one. Nice and simple. And then current, this is going to actually just perform a request. So we'll deal with that one last. We've got these three main endpoints. So if we come over to the API, we've got, oh, we need a count, don't we? Let's add that. Actually, no, that's going to be a method. We'll add that at the top. Oh, we'll add it at the bottom because that is where we're adding the ones that aren't just quick returns. Here we go. We'll add that right at the end. Public function account. Static function for now. I might reassess the whole static stuff later on and just work with a facade, but I'll decide when I need to. So the first thing I need to think about here is how am I going to get this to work? So let's start with a really simple API endpoint. The account, where you're just asking for your account. So within here, I need to create a new directory. We're going to call it transporter. We're going to create a Fathom request again, just like we did last time. This part's kind of similar. This is going to extend the transporter request. Simplify that one. We're going to do protected string method as get. We're setting that default method to get. I always like to set that default method because then if it's just a standard GET request and I don't need to change any parameters, I don't actually have to do much. Great. Then we'll have the protected string base URL, and we're going to set that to I believe it was just v1. So tell you what we'll do is we will look at the Fathom CLI. Let's see what we had within here for Fathom. Fathom request, API v1. Here we go. So API / v1. So this time we'll carry on the pattern of having that / within there. And we didn't actually have much in there. We had this, but we're not going to need that sort of thing, but we are going to want this. So let's just grab that. That's what we need. We need to authenticate basically. So public function authenticate. We're going to return ourselves. I'm just going to do that. But what we're going to do here instead of that is we're going to lean on Laravel to say Fathom SDK token, because we've passed you that information, so please give it me. And then we're just going to return this. This is going to be an abstract request, abstract class. So as you can see, all we've done is we're extending the transporter request to create our client-specific one here, our Fathom request. We're setting our default HTTP method to get. We're setting the base URL by default to api.usefathom.com API/v1, and then we are we're adding this authenticate method, so every request can authenticate if and when it needs to. If there's a health check endpoint, you don't want to automatically call authenticate and send over your API token because you're sending more data than what you need to. It's better to be explicit in sending your auth credentials than just sending it all the time. Fathom SDK. And let's just do this. Yeah, that to me looks pretty good. So there's my Fathom request. Next, I'm going to want my account request, aren't I? So let's go account request. This is going to extend the Fathom request. Nice and clean, nice and easy now, isn't it? So now all this needs to do is, because I've done a lot of the work, string path is, that is it. That is that done. So when we come back to Fathom and we're going down to this account here, we can quite simply, let's focus in on this so we can really just enjoy how simple this is going to be. Our response is going to be the account request where we build it. We then want to make sure it's authenticated. We then want to send it. That's it. But if the response failed for any reason at all, we want to throw whatever's being returned as an exception. Means we can now add that doc block. And we'll simplify that so it looks nice without doing that. Ooh. It's complaining about something. Psalm invalid throw, cannot throw null as it does not. Okay, I'm just going to ignore that. That's it, not understanding what's going on under the hood. That is all. So if we pass at this point, we should get a response back. We should get an object back. So for now, we will just do a die and dump on the response JSON. To test this, we need to create a test. So we are going to create a PHP file called account test. We're going to declare strict types, and this is where we're going to start doing some, hopefully, magic. Can send an API request and get the account information. For now, I'm not going to worry about higher order or whatever you want to call them, but I will do a account request. Like, even simpler, Fathom account. Terminal. Yeah, all this up here. Give myself some real estate. Vendor in test. So testable settlement must be public. I had this before in here. Protected setup, parent setup. So let's go have a look at this test case because I had that before. I've had this before. Public setup. So protected function setup. Try that again. Excellent. We're getting a step closer. So composer require puzzle for dev. We're including it on dev here because when you pull this into your Laravel framework, you should already have a HTTP client ready to rock and roll. Bang. So what's going wrong? Unauthenticated. Great. I haven't set my API token. So what I am going to do, I'm going to do this little part off screen because I've got a very specific API token. So what I need is on test case. Yes, environment setup. I need it on here. So let me steal my screen. You can go have a look at how wonderful the Fathom website is for a second. This doesn't work. I'm just going to have to do lots of faked requests. Okay. In theory, it should now be working. So let's test it one more time. And we've got it. We have got my account back. So what we can do is we don't really want with JSON, do we? So why don't we open up pour? What we're going to want to do, remind me later. Let's add a new request in here, and we're going to say Fathom URL account go. Dismiss that. So okay, accept application JSON authenticated. Authentication is a bearer token. And we want to see the raw. No, we want to see JSON text. Here we go. That's what we want. JSON text. So this is where we can start creating our fixtures. So within our fixtures in our test in here, we can do a new file, account.json. Add. Done. Here's our first one. Here's our first fixture. So what we did last time is with the commands, or no, the actions, we create module with name, validate module name, package is fake, get fixture. So that package is fake we were calling here, that was basically just setting up this, but we want to do things slightly differently, don't we? Let's just play with this. So simplify that. What we need to do is basically best ways to do this. What's going to be a nice way to do it without it looking horrible? I tell you what, let's create some value objects. I don't like using the name domain transfer object because I'm not actually in a domain of anything. These are value objects. They are. That's what I'm calling them. Let's be happy with it. So our value object will have an ID, name, email, and an object string. So public function construct. Zoom in. We're going to have let's focus on the API docs. So the ID is going to be an integer. So public int ID. We're going to have a string for the object, which is it's like its type. We're going to have a name, so public string name, and a public string email. That is super simple, right? That's a standard value object, data transfer object, whichever one you would like to call it. And all we need to do is a way to create them. So we go, okay, let's create a factory. Factory here, and we're going to create an account factory. And this is going to have a super simple public static function make. It is going to take an array of data and it is going to return an account. So we can return new account. So the ID is actually like attributes, not data. It's me. I think it's probably just because I'm used to the way Laravel does certain things. And the ID, name. So we want the object next, don't we? We're going to do them in order. Object attributes, object. Name is going to be attributes, name. Email is going to be attributes, email. That's simple. that clean, that's simple. This account factory will return that, which means we're never directly creating that, which means that in our transporter account request, in our Fathom account down here, this, all we got to do is turn account factory, make. So let's PHP 8 it up. Make sure our attributes are passed through nicely. And let's go back to our test. So this should be returning an instance of account. So it can get the account information. So here's our account. So we can, okay, let's expect Fathom account to be instance of account. ID to be no, I don't really want to. Do I want to test that? I'm going to leave it at that. When we get around to faking things, we don't want to be testing specifics without pulling in the fixtures. There we go. It can get account information. So what can we do? What can we do? We're not going to need fixtures right now, I don't think. Not the way I want to do things. What I can do is I can do things like account request fake, and the data, you can pass some fake data, but I don't know what we should do just yet. Let's do that. Let's see what happens if I just call that directly. I'm going to get a fail. Argument must be a array null given. So there's a fake. And the fake data is going to be, can I load the data? That's going to be the next question. So get fixture. Ooh. Get fixture account. Let's see what it does. No. So fake data on null. So we're not able to do that. That's just setting it the way that we don't want it. Damn it. Okay. So that's what we can do. That's how easy we can test that one. That's going to call the API though. And we don't really want to do that. Do we really want to be testing that, this? Probably not. So we're going to write a slightly nicer test. And what we're going to do instead is we're going to just test the actual request. So we will checking it's installed, validating this. It does something. Package is fake. Laravel, then tap, validate, bloody blah. What can we do? How can we test this nicely? I mean, what I'd usually do is I'd go account request. Fake. I want to fake it straight away. We need to fake it. Simplify it. Cool. So my response is going to be account request build and authenticate. Is it with data or with? Let's go jump through some hoops quickly, and we're going to do the use fake data, fake response. We can do a fake response on that class itself. So account request, we can do a protected function fake response. It's going to return a response, which is that one. Let's return new response. And the first part is okay. How should we do that one? What should we do? This fake response. If it exists. No. Otherwise, it's going to return a PSR7 response. I swear I did a way to do the fake data as well. Let's go have a look at the docs. I wrote docs, which would be a lot easier to understand. This very second. PR that I've not fully read through. So, test fake with fake data. I can do a with fake data. I knew there was something like that I could do. So let's just drop that rubbish that we don't want. And with fake data, send. Right, so the fake data I actually want to send is going to be ID 1. The type is count. The name is and the email is pest@pest.com. So first thing first, let's see what it does. One failed. Bad method call with fake data. So, oh, it was my bad, not that. I need to transport a fake request, I believe. It's still not coming up. Okay. So something's gone winky wonky there. I am going to have to look into the underlying code because apparently I cannot remember how the PR was meant to work. So we're just going to do that. We're just going to use the actual API while we're building for now. And what we'll do, we'll just find a way to not do that at other places later. So there's our response. And then we want to expect response. Status. Be what do we want here? So composer require status code. Let's just grab that. And we're going to want that to be an OK. So we will just kind of grab that. Because we're not using facade, it's OK to use this quite bluntly. So let's just run that again. Bang. We are looking good. we are getting an OK response. So now we can start looking at the body. So we can do something like expect the response JSON. Ooh, JSON to the array. And we want the ID to equal, maybe not ID, name, because I know my name, right? Let's see if that works. Yes, we are looking good. So we want the name to equal that, and we want the email to equal stevemcd@gmail.com. So again, it should be working. Perfect. So we know our account endpoint is now working. One checked off the list. So account test, account request. Well, I won't focus too heavily on the testing for now. I think I need to look under the hood at what the PR was about for some of this, because apparently it isn't working the way I wanted it to. So let's just make sure that we are popping that return type there. And let's move on to the next thing, current site visitors. So if we come over to Fathom reports, I don't know if this works yet, so we're going to have a look. So sites, particular site we're on, and current visitors. So let's have a look at this current. So we are going to need a new transporter request, and we're just going to say something like current visitors request, which is going to extend the Fathom request. Nice and simple. And all this needs is it doesn't even need the path, because we need to set the path based on how we are using it. So yeah, current should accept null string site ID, which defaults to null. Very similar as this here. So here is where we can say site equals Fathom SDK dot site. Then the end. Cool. So we can say that the response is the current visitor request. We're going to build it. Then we're going to authenticate. Then we're going to set the path. And that path is going to be a string, which is sites. Site. Then we're going to jump in and say current is it alls. Send. Now let's just dump on that response JSON and see what it says. I'll put a test in place. So this is going to be a current visitor test. So again, much like this one, we're just going to do it and get the current visitors, the Fathom API. Let's give ourselves some room here. So our response is going to be visitors is going to be Fathom current core. Let's go to list events. Let's get that because I know that site. Let's just pass this through for the ID to be that. Simplify that. Why is it complaining? Yeah, okay. I'm going to ignore that. Run. And the message is null. So we're getting nothing back currently. Let's go status. 404. Okay, so something is going wrong. Visitors, perhaps. Got sites, site ID, current visitors. Okay, so this one just isn't working yet. So we're not gonna let this bum us out too much. We'll comment it out, but we'll keep it there for when we want it later on. So let's close some of that down. So current visitors, we will not do anything with yet, other than for an exception if we get an error, which in this case we would have done. Back to our README and see where. Oh, actually, don't need our README. Let's just collapse that. I'm going to collapse that because we don't need it yet. And let's go to sites. Sites is a nice, easy one because this is a different type of API call now. So we're going to go to sites, then we hit sites, and what we want to see is options like get, create, first, update, delete, and wipe. Those, much like these. So let's go to sites, resources, sites. Within here, we're going to have a request. What else are we going to have? What else do we want? Tell you what, let's put this over this side. This will make it easier. I'm going to get. I'm going to have the create request. Ooh, keyboard's getting a little bit happy today, isn't it? So we have get, create, big function. You're going to want the first. We're going to want to update. We're going to want to delete. We're going to wipe. So what I'm going to do is hit the ones that I know I need. So first, we are going to have null string ID is null. That is going to be on that one, that one, that one, and that one. When we're updating, we will be accepting an array of attributes. When we're wiping, we're not doing anything. When we're deleting, we're not. And when we are creating, we also want an array of attributes. That's it. So what we can do, we can grab that. We can come over to events because we also need them. Ooh, this is where the events, we actually don't need some of this stuff. Or do we? No, we will. Okay, so the ID in here is required. So is the update. So is the delete. And so is that. So Never mind. So requests. Let's hit some requests. The get requests. So we're going to be listing out all sites. Transporter directory. Let's just do it this way. Sites. Create a list request within here. Request, which is going to extend the Fathom request. And the only thing we need to do is to add the path. Protected string path, and we will do sites. That is it. So when we're doing this, we can say, okay, so response is request. We're going to build, then we're going to authenticate, and then we're going to send. If our response failed, then we want to throw that to an exception. If we didn't, we want to just build up something basically. So this is where we did sites list request within our commands, sites list command. We did a collect on the data and then we mapped over it. Awesome. So that is what we need. We want to collect the data. So we need a new file in here. We need a site factory. And our site factory is going to have a public function make. Going to receive an array of attributes. Going to return a value object for site. A site. And how does our site look when it's coming back from the API? Sites. Our site looks like this. It's a string ID. So public function construct. So the public string ID, public string object, I'm assuming. Yep. Then we got a name, public string name, public string sharing. And then we're going to have a public of an instance for the created at. We'll just call it created. No point doing it created at. So there's a created. Let's have a quick sip of a drink. So there's that, nice and clean. So basically this is going to return a site. So from here we can return a new site where the ID is attributes. Let's zoom in and let's give ourselves some space. Copy that because we're going to want it. The ID. Name is attributes name. Object is obviously the object. Sharing is sharing. Created is going to be carbon. Pass. Created at. Done. So there's that, there's that. It means we can then do our collection is going to be response collect the data. I'm assuming this will, yeah, that will return a collection. Cool. So we can say that this should return a collection. We're going to map over this. Assuming map still returns a collection. Yep, cool. Then we are going to get the site within there. And we want to return the site factory. Make sites. Do that. There we go. Relatively clean. So in theory, we could just return that. In theory, so sites get. Let's see if this will do what I expect it to in the future here. So sites get test, and then it and get a list of sites from the Fathom API. First things first is get the response. Oh, sorry, the sites, should I say? I can say Fathom sites. And what I need from Paul is that again. Oh, no, that. So sites. No, that actually give me all sites anyway. Cool. So simplify that. Get those and expect sites to be instance of a collection. Oh, and it is. Excellent. I'm pretty sure you can do like each one to be instance of site. So that sounds about right. So now if I just quickly come up here and just do a quick grind up on the sites, just to make sure that, you know, I'm not getting anything crazy going on and the tests aren't just being wacky. Bang, here's a Carbon instance. API test site, Laravel transporter, and my actual site. So that is actually a really nice way to do it. So what I can do is I can go, you know, sites where name. Okay, here we go. If I expect sites where name is going to be equal to steveking.uk, I expect sharing to be no. Oh, okay, so let's get the ID where the ID is like that to be an instance of site and we want the name to be just steveking.uk. Now run it, and we fail. So failed asserting that object is okay. So it went hinky dinky there, but you get the picture. You could start going through doing things quite nicely. So let's just say, oh, not that. We want expect that. Simpler. Perfect. Which means surely I could that. Oh, no, something went wrong. Class config doesn't exist. Okay, so if I do it this way, something goes horribly wrong. So I'm just going to keep it as it is because I know it works. There we go. Let's make sure it's all formatted nicely. So we'll close that down. That's how we get a list of sites. We can get all the sites now. So resources, sites. So now what happens if we want to create a site? When we want to create a site, we're going to pass through this array. And we want to validate at this point, right? Because if we're coming to here, we don't want to wait for the API to validate it. We want to make sure that we understand the validation. So what we can do, validation, let's go to the docs. We can manually creating validators. We can do our own validation like this. So I will walk through this part. So our validator is going to be validator make. Is it that what we want, or shall we say import that one? Support facade make. Then we want to pass through the attributes, and then we want to go Fathom validation and site validation. This is what we're going to do. We're going to come to here. Let's just close all those down. Create this nice new support. A new class, Fathom validation. And what this is going to do basically is it's going to have this one method here, this static method for site validation. So public static function validation. It's going to return an array. What this array is going to do is going to return the validation rules. So our API, the name is required. So name required. Any string up to 255 characters is available. So it's got to be a string, and it's got to be a max of 255. It doesn't have to match the website URL. That is fine. That is good for me. So sharing is nullable. We don't need sharing. It's got to be a string, but that needs to be one of non-private or public. And we can go down to the share password, which again is nullable. and must be a string at this point. That's it. That's the only validation we need. Okay. Valid make import validation. This is our validator. So if can't you stop on first failure? Let's go back to the doc. Let's make sure I am pulling through the right class here. Start validator. Validate fails. Then we're going to want to get there. Validator. Contract validator make. Validation factory. So once we've validated, I'm going to make it. Can we? That's validating, resolving, adding extensions, extend, replacer, translations, in the container. No, so we can't get an exception from this, from the looks of it. So it looks like we're going to have to throw our own validation exception at this point, which is fine. I mean, you can throw the default throw new validation exception from eliminate validation, and validator failed. Validation exception will accept the validator. Cool. Validator. Add that. Okay. That's if we fail. So if we're failing, we can just say, say this validation exception. Otherwise, we can say our response is going to be, now we get to create the response. So in transporter sites, we can go to a request, which is going to extend our Fathom request. Simplify that one. Public. Nope, my bad. So it's going to be exactly the same as this one. So let's copy it over. Vector string path sites. So all we need to do is set that method there. So we can now say create request, build, authenticate. Eventually we're going to get to send it, but we're also going to say with data, the data is validated. Any validated data that has come back, basically. Much like we would in a Laravel application, we are just leveraging what we have and what we're working with. We're using the framework to its best advantage. So what we can do is, if the response failed for any reason, we can throw the response to exception. Add another throws tag because it could throw either of. Ooh. Try that one quickly. Some crap. So at this stage, we should have a single site should come back. And the response that it should give us is this. So all we need to do is, I'm not even going to try and dump anything here. I'm assuming I can return site factory, make response JSON, done. So this is the attributes. So it is going to return site. That's it. We should be able to create one. So why don't we test that? What we're going to do is we are going to list sites. I currently have 4. Send that request. So now let's test creating one. Tests, account test, site get test, and tell you what, I'm just going to rename this. Refactor, rename sites test. That's it. Can get a list of sites from the Fathom API, and we're also going to say it can create a new site on the Fathom API. Zoom in. So at this stage, we can just do a expect Fathom sites create. When it returns, it should be an instance of site. So now we just need to add some stuff into here. So our name is going to be Fathom SDK test, and that sharing we are going to set by default to none. We don't actually need to add anything there, but I'm going to add it just so that we can test the validation and make sure that nothing breaks along the way. So something failed. Undefined array key ID. So it can create a new site. So create request. That's fine. Sites here. Create. That's all of that. Let's just come to here and dump on the response ID. Oh, JSON, should I say. But beforehand, we had 4. Still got 4. We've not created anything new. Is good. Something's failed early. So creating. We're in the response JSON. Ooh, okay, so it's actually returning like a new list. So their docs are slightly wrong. It is not returning a site object. I'm going to make a quick note of that one so I can speak to Jack. So create site is actually returning all of your sites, which if we scroll through should have test API update site. No. Odd. Very strange. Can we dive into this? Yes, we can. Look at that. Isn't that nice? So that create request is fine. Oh, I know what's wrong. Silly Steve. Protected string method is post. It's a post request, you silly man. What were you thinking? Here we go. So now if I come back over to here, I've got an extra item and there's a Fathom SDK test. So it isn't an issue with the API. It is an issue with me not reading the bloody documentation. So Jack, I apologize. That's not you. That is me. So this now works. Basically, everything now works as expected, as it was working. So we can now close that one down. First site. So what we need is just a fetch request in here again, just like we did yesterday on Tuesday. A fetch request is going to extend the Fathom request. Simplify that one. Do a little bit of tidy up. Don't want anything on that. Then on the first here. So response is going to be the fetch request, build, authenticate, eventually send, but we want to set the path, and the path is going to be do we want this optional? No, because we're looking up at this point, aren't we? The path is going to be sites ID. That's it. So if the response failed for any reason, we want to throw the response to an exception, which means we want to do that, and then we can return site factory make the attributes is the response JSON done. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at our test again. So I'm going to comment this out because I don't want to keep creating the same site. It will start to fail on validation. So it can get a specific site from the Fathom API. So what we want to do is we want to expect Fathom sites first, where the ID is the first one. That expect that an instance of site. And it works. Just like that. It's almost as if we knew. I'll probably work on adding the faking of all the data after this part. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to comment out some of these tests so I don't just keep hitting the API just to write tests. Make sure that visitors, nothing in there. Sites test, no, that's fine. Account. Just so I don't keep hitting the API for no real reason, just because I know those tests now work. So there's getting a first one. The next one is updating. So this, again, I don't know what I was thinking with that one. Because the passing in should always, the passing in should pull the config, not any other way around. So let's just do that because I don't really know what I was thinking. So updating a site. When we come to update a site, it is relatively similar, although everything's optional. Optional. So very similar to create. I'm going to do this. Then we're going to do a bit of that. Then we're probably going to do a bit of that. So it's very similar to this. And what we'll do is probably look at simplifying some of this down the line. So site validation, we'll probably do a site upload validation. So let's just go there. We'll do a public static function where that's an array. And we're going to pretty much return the same thing where this is nullable. So jobbed, and then we're just going to create an update request where we want to set path be something different. The path is going to be at this point sites/ID, which has been passed through. So that should be it. Now I just need to create this in here, which is going to extend the Fathom request. Simplify that. Protected string method. This is where Fathom uses a post at the moment. Eventually it probably updates something different, but now the update request is what we got for a post. Posting, authenticating, we're setting the path as we go with the data. Everything else is being pulled through as expected. Request validation, blah, blah, site factory, blah, blah, lots of stuff. Cool. Site test. Right. So, and write a test and see if we get any sort of failures. So, it can update a site using the Fathom API. Luckily, you don't get charged for the amount of sites you have. So Fathom sites update where the ID is. Let's just update this latest one, SDK test. And the attributes are going to be, the only thing that I'm going to pass through is the name, and we're going to call this the Fathom SDK test updated. And then we're going to expect the response to be an instance of site. So, time to see if we know what we're doing. That's one. Updated. It appears we know what we're doing. Sometimes I shock myself. So there we go. That is another API endpoint hit. That is updating. And this is actually going really quickly. This is going better than I thought it would do. I hope everyone out there is doing okay. Wiping data. So no one likes wiping data. It always just feels wrong. So let's just close some of that down. Come over to sites. Deleting a site. Okay. Delete a site. We'll do that first. So delete. So we will come over here and we'll create a delete request. It's going to extend our basic Fathom request. And this is making SDKs in Laravel so much easier. You know, okay, it's not an SDK, but it is. It's more of a service integration than a software development kit. It is using Laravel Transporter to do the API transportation layer, all that transport stuff. So you don't need a HTTP client because you're just going to use Laravels because you're using Transporter, and all you're doing is you're configuring stuff and making request classes that are going to handle everything for you, and that's it. That is all you need to do. So for delete request, we are going to go to protected string method is delete. Simple. Simples. What could be harder than that? So I keep doing that. The response is going to be that delete request. And we're going to build it. Then we're going to authenticate. Eventually, we're going to send this. Beforehand, we want to set that path. So setting the path is simple. We can say path, do double quotes because we can go sites ID. And that's all we need to do. That is our delete request done. Fail. For any particular reason, just as before, we can throw the response to an exception. And all that's going to complain about is adding that doc there. And then this does have an object that can be returned, but I don't know. I don't know if it should. Because it's returning one, I'm just going to do it. Actually, no, I'm just going to return something simple. So we're just going to return response JSON. Oh, we can get the key. Ooh. Or we could just do wiped. So that is going to return a Boolean value, and whether it's been deleted or not, basically. So nice and simple. Oh, sorry, deleted, not that. Let's see what deleted returns. Deleted will return whether it's been deleted, not wiped. My mistake. So all we need to do with this part is run a quick test, and we're going to test it on this site. So it is a good start. So it can delete a site using the Fathom API. I'm really interested to see what's coming up with Pest PHP at the minute. Nunu and Luke are really, really shouting about something that I just don't know what it is yet. It's so frustrating when they do that. And the ID is going to be this. It's going to delete that site, basically. Pop. And to be true. That is it. That is all we need to test. So, come over to here. We've got up to index 4. We've got these 5 items. Come to here. Run. Run forest. We have lost it because we have deleted it. Aha! And that passed because it's true. So what I'm going to do, comment that out because I don't want to keep running the same requests at this stage. So there's our delete. Wiping data next. Another fun one. So we're going to create a wipe request. Which is going to extend a Fathom request. Let's simplify that one. And all that needs is and again another delete request. So grab this, do that, and basically I'm doing this, but something else. If that makes sense. So the wipe request. Get the data instead. Wiped. So let's grab random ID, this one here, another one that's a test site. Let's just wipe the data. As long as I don't wipe my actual data, I'm okay. Because, you know, I like it can wipe a site's data using the Fathom API. Yeah, I like having my my analytics stored. I don't want to wipe it. So we want that to be true. So now we can just go run. And again, we passed. Good, good, good. Lots of good stuff going on. So that is sites done. We can interact with our sites up on Fathom. Delete these for now because I'm going to go through and add doc blocks as required. That's it. Clean. That is clean. I like it. And now I can just say, comment that out too. Excellent. So there are sites. Next is events. I'm probably not going to get a lot done today, so I'm going to skip everything and jump straight down to aggregations. So aggregations. This is where we need this, but we're also going to want to look at how we name things on here. So aggregations generate, and we're going to want to pass through some sort of payload body which we can validate. So public function generate some in. We're going to basically just return a report of some description. That attributes. So how do we want this to work? We're going to have like entity ID, aggregates. Some of these things are required. So this is like one of the harder ones. This is definitely one of the harder endpoints. So we're going to go to PHP class. Aggregates request. Extend the Fathom request. Then what our aggregate is going to do, it's got a specific endpoint already. So we can say that our protected string path is going to be that. It's going to be a GET request. Same everything else. It's just all the body part that changes, which is how we're going to control it within here. So if we want to get an aggregate, we need to write a test. We're going to TDD this part because this part is crazy. Aggregations test. So let's build a very specific one. So I want to get all page views for a site grouped by browser and device. So it can get all page views for a site and use different groupings. We call it different groupings. I'm probably going to put a few things in here as we go through. So the first part is we want to expect Fathom aggregations. No, wait. So let's simplify that. We'll run with that first. And this is going to be the attributes. What we want to send over is entity is going to be page views or page view. The entity ID is going to be at. And we know next we need to get the aggregates. So the is complaining. That's fine. The void method, that's okay with me for now. So the aggregates, what this does is separated by a comma, so we could have visits, uniques, page views, average duration. I need to get page views. This is what I want right now. I want to get page views. Do I want any sort of date grouping? No, don't want any page date grouping. Field grouping, I'll probably copy this. So field grouping is browser and device type. So we'll grab that. And it's just going to be this. So when we're actually integrating and creating this ourselves, we could pass this as an array. So that's what we'll do, just to kind of highlight that. Is it will be an implodable array. Yes, I could just write this as an array because it's a test, but to demonstrate that this is what we want to be doing, and device type. And sort by. Sort by page views descending. That's all I want. That. So if I now just run this, I'm expecting a failure. Risky, we shouldn't do anything. Good. So aggregations here. Let's just go and dump on my attributes. And let's make sure things are being passed over as we expect. Yep. All looking good to me. So this is where we need to validate. So this is going to be very similar to what we did with sites. So resources, site. When we're creating, we want to create a validator, Fathom validation, and this is where we need to do like some more in-depth validation, which I'll go through. So this is where we need like a public static aggregate validation. Function aggregate validation and return an array because this is our validation rules. Let's zoom in and we will return an array. So entity is required. be a string, and it must be one of page view or event. Entity ID. So yeah, this is going to be a string. So entity ID is required, and it's a string. Most we can do. Aggregates is next. So our aggregates is required. Got to be a string, and it's got to be in one of these millions of things. So, oh no, visits, uniques, page views, average duration, or bounce rate. That is aggregate validation. So date grouping is optional. So we can now put that one in there. Let's zoom out so we can get a good view on this. So our date grouping is nullable string, and it's got to be in our day, month, or year. Cool. That's simple, that part. Nice and clean. I like it. So then the field grouping. Again, nullable strings. But the supporting values are wait. Field grouping. So this one's going to get ugly. So host name, path name, for a host name, for a path name. Then we've got browser, country, device type, UTM campaign, UTM content, UTM medium, UTM source, UTM term, keyword, Q, ref, and I think with S. I don't know what they actually all stand for, but optionals, lots of optionals. Sort by. You can use any field that you've asked for in the aggregations and field grouping options. Okay, so I'm not going to do much with that one. I'm just going to make it nullable and string. So sort by. I'll build up a nicer way to do this when it comes to publishing. Time zone is nullable, string, and I'm pretty sure there's a time zone rule. Wait, so you can just use time zone. Oh no, yeah, just time zone. Because then it just ensures it is in the time zone identifiers list is what they will accept. TZ database name, which is kind of one and the same, I believe, which default to UTC, date from, optional timestamp. So date from is a nullable timestamp. And I'm pretty sure we've got a timestamp for its time. For date before equal to date, and then the date to again nullable date. All of this I'll have to start writing some pretty good tests around, I think. And then filters. Filters is something that I don't know how I'm going to validate just yet. Because filters is nullable array. It's an array you can use. So you can have loads of things that you can have. A path name is not register, path name is register, country is UK, referrer is blah, blah, blah. You can really drill down in depth with that aggregation at that point. So for now, I'm just going to leave that, I think. So let's just grab this, because this part's going to be important. Pull that in. Aggregate validation. That'll do. Aggregate validation. So if we have passed that, we have passed our validation. This is where we can start to create our response. And this is where we can say the Aggregates request. We're going to build it, authenticate it, data, where the data is the validator validated. And we're just going to send it. Oh, no, not set path. Send. There we go. But if our response fails, any reason, we are going to throw that response to an exception. Otherwise, line dump on the response, JSON, and see what happens when I run that. We failed. Okay, so the given data is invalid. Generate page views, bloody blah, bloody blah. Browser device type. Okay, so that's because that's got more than one. Oh, the validation is going to kill me on this one. So the field grouping. Is there a way you can like Laravel validate array items? How are we going to do it? Validating arrays. Oh, okay, so you can say this has a key. That's fine, but I don't know if I want to validate on a key. Ooh, this is going to get messy. I might just have to comment this out for now until I can figure out a nice way. I'm not going to delete it because I don't want to write all that again. But I will comment it out. Get the validation passing for now. Entity field is required. Entity ID. Entity ID. We got that. So here, so let's just try and dump on this. Let's see what we're getting when we hit here. Let's see what we get at this stage. entity ID, aggregates, field grouping, and sort by. So we have everything we expect at that stage. But we're getting a 400 response code. Errors entity, the entity field is required. Entity ID, the entity ID field is required. So when we're setting that data, let's just try and dump on that. Let's see what's been done. So we've got all of this stuff as a middleware, preparing the body, errors, data is empty. Okay, it's not passing through the data. Okay, so let me set this manually. So if I just set it manually, let's make sure things are going. No, that's not going to do it. It's not data at all. It is going to be with query because it's not a post request. With query, and the query is going to be validator validated data. I knew it. I knew it. I knew something was wonky. Oh, go away. Quit. Hey, and we're getting it back. So we can generate reports. Obviously, I'm off screen. I did a little celebration there. I am pretty happy with that. I don't know how we're going to return some of these because they're extremely varied depending on what you ask for. I might just have to return a collection of arrays at this stage, really. Because it just might make more sense. So I could just return a new collection where the items is that, because sort of filters returns an array of, so, yeah, something crazy. Yeah, we'll just keep it to a collection for now, because I think because of how flexible it is, you can't really say what you're getting back. This I'll have to look at. But this testing, we're expecting that to be instance of collection class. So that is how we do it. Quite impressed with that. I'm quite happy with that. Let's just die and dump on it. Let's see how it looks. That's nice, isn't it? Items, page views. You can start being really specific with some of this. So in our test over here, zoom out a bit. So I want to get page views, and I want to get the browser, group it by the browser device type. Where do I want to add the country within there? Now I can generate a really cool report. No, I can't. Country is not a supported field. Damn you. Okay, so validation. What can I get? Oh, okay. So apparently country. Country code is what you want. Country code. Again, this is early access. things aren't going to be perfect yet. So here we go. Firefox phone, Hong Kong, another country, EE, GT, Chrome, desktop. So I could just, I could drop the device type or browser. Let's drop the browser. Let's just get a general report on that. However many tablets from that country, however many desktops from that country. It's a cool little way to generate reports. As you can see, it's, super quick, basically. If I come to this aggregate here and 400 milliseconds to get a good report. That's rare. That is super rare. But for now, I'm just going to simplify that. Come over to here and we're going to return collection. That's it. I think that'll be it for tonight. That's 2 hours, pretty much on the nose. If anybody's got any questions, you know where I am on Twitter. This is obviously going to be up here. And let me drop the link in the chat. Feel free to come and have a look. I'm going to look at how I can add nicer testing around it, how I can control the validation a little bit nicer. And yeah, thank you very much. That was fun. Jack, thanks for the early access. It was fantastic. Love the API. Can't wait to use it at work. I am actually not streaming next week because I am away with the family. So try not to miss me too much, but I will be with my wife and kids in Cardiff somewhere, eating takeaways, going to a farm, riding a tractor, all fun stuff with the kids. So try not to miss me too much, and I will see you on my return. Good night.